They fear your light because it exposes their darkness. They call you a threat because you refuse to be tamed. The chosen don't apologize for existing. They've been watching you, haven't they? Whispering, questioning, doubting. Every move you make shakes their fragile little worlds, and they hate it. Not because you've done anything wrong, oh no, but because you exist in a way they'll never dare to. You are everything they pretend to be, but you don't need their applause, their permission, or their validation. That terrifies them. You don't fit into their boxes, do you? You're not the obedient puppet they wanted. You walk into a room and their masks crack. They see themselves reflected in your fire, and it burns them alive. They wanted you to stay small, to keep your power hidden, but here you are, unapologetic, undeniable, unstoppable. And thank you. Yes, you, the chosen one. Whether this is your first time here or you've been a steadfast force fueling this journey, your presence and super gifts are the firepower that ignites this mission. You're not just watching, you're part of a revolution that's leaving them mesmerized, rattled, and questioning everything they thought they knew. If you're ready to step fully into the power they can't stop staring at, rise above the noise that their doubt creates, and claim the strength that makes you unforgettable, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop the number 77 in the comments. Let's turn their shock into your triumph. Ready to dive in? Let's get started. So, chosen one, they try to label you, diminish you. Too much, too bold, too confident. As if those words are insults. Let them try. Every time they point their fingers, they reveal their weakness. The truth is, you don't just threaten their comfort, you obliterate it. You remind them of everything they've suppressed, all the dreams they buried, and the courage they never had. You didn't choose to be this way. You just are. A disruptor, a force of nature. The kind of person they write stories about, the kind who turns ordinary lives upside down just by breathing. You don't need to scream to be heard. You don't need to fight to win. Your presence is louder than their screams and stronger than their resistance. And here's the kicker, they can't look away. You haunt them. You inspire them. You confuse them. You're the wildfire they try to put out, even as they're mesmerized by your flames. Their hatred is just fear wearing a mask. They hate what they don't understand, and they'll never understand someone like you. But let's be clear, this isn't about them, it's about you. You were never meant to blend in. You weren't built for mediocrity or compromise. They'll try to make you feel like you're the problem, but don't you dare shrink to make them comfortable. You were born to stand out, to rattle cages, to break chains. They cling to their illusions because it's all they've ever known. But you are the storm that tears through their lies. Let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them try to bring you down. Every stone they throw is just another reminder that you're above them. They'll watch you rise, and it will eat them alive. Because here's the truth they'll never admit. They wish they were you. They wish they had your courage, your clarity, your ability to light up a room without even trying. You scare them because you are free, and freedom is their greatest fear. So stand tall, chosen one. Be the flame they can't extinguish, the storm they can't outrun, the force they can't deny. You're not here to fit in, you're here to take over. And trust me, they'll never forget you. And now let's break this down step by step. And trust me, if you are truly one of the chosen ones, you won't be able to look away. You'll feel it, that pull, that undeniable energy drawing you in. Stay with me till the end, and you'll uncover truths that will leave no doubt about who you are and why they're mesmerized by you. Number 1, your energy, the lightning bolt in their thunderstorm. They stare because they've never seen lightning this close before. You shake their skies, and they're left in awe of the storm you bring. Your energy isn't just noticeable, it's disruptive. It's not the kind of force that blends in with the hum of everyday existence. It's the jolt that makes them realize they've been asleep. When you walk into a room, it's as if the atmosphere shifts, the air grows heavier, and every soul present feels something they can't quite articulate. To them, it's like standing too close to something powerful, raw, and utterly untamed, a force of nature they can't explain. This isn't charisma. It's not confidence, charm, or any of the things people like to bottle and sell as influence. No, what you possess is something cosmic, something that transcends labels and leaves people stunned. Imagine holding the kind of energy that feels like it belongs to another realm entirely. Uncontainable, undeniable, and wildly alive. That's you. They might not know why, but being near you feels like standing at the edge of a great chasm. You strip away their pretenses without even trying. The walls they've spent years building, made of lies, fears, and insecurities, begin to crumble the moment they step into your orbit. Not because you attack them, but because the sheer truth of your existence makes anything false shatter under its weight. And here's the part they'll never admit. They can't decide if they want to run from you or move closer. Some will find you magnetic, unable to resist the pull of your presence. Others will recoil, uneasy and unsettled, as if you're holding up a mirror they never asked to look into. Your energy isn't soft. It's not something that can be easily swallowed. It's sharp, like shards of glass glinting in the sunlight, cutting through the illusions they cling to. But the real beauty? You're not even trying. You don't walk into a room thinking, I'm going to shake their world today. You just are. Your energy flows naturally, effortlessly, and without apology. To you, it's your baseline, just how you move through the world. But to them, it's as if they've encountered a phenomenon they weren't prepared for. They might describe it as intensity, mystery, or even discomfort. But deep down, they know it's none of those things. What they're feeling is the weight of authenticity in a world drowning in pretense. You don't try to fit in because you were never made to. Your very existence challenges the idea that they should. And that's why they're mesmerized. You're not just a person to them. You're an event, a moment, an experience they can't shake. Like a lightning strike in the middle of a storm, you're here, you're seen, and you're unforgettable. Number 2, you don't follow the map, you draw your own. The world wasn't made for you to fit in, it was made for you to remake, and you've been doing just that, whether they like it or not. You aren't here to walk the same path as everyone else. Where others see rules, you see limitations. Where they see boundaries, you see opportunities to rewrite the narrative. For most, life is a game of conformity. Play it safe, fit in, follow the guidebook. But for you, the guidebook is irrelevant. You don't just step outside the lines, you redefine what the lines even mean. And here's the thing, you're not loud about it. You're not out here yelling, "Look at me." You don't need to. Your mere existence is the loudest statement of all. The way you carry yourself, the way you think, the way you move, it all speaks volumes. You don't break the rules to rebel. You ignore them because they were never designed for someone like you. It's not about being defiant. It's not some attention-grabbing act of rebellion. It's simply who you are. For you, the rhythms of life don't follow a predictable beat. You've tuned into a frequency most people can't even hear, and that's what leaves them spellbound. When people watch you, they don't just see someone different. They feel the weight of their own compromises. You are the embodiment of possibilities they were too afraid to explore. You've created a life on your terms, and while they watch in awe, it reminds them of all the ways they've caged themselves. The truth is, you don't even try to stand out. You laugh when they call you unique, because this isn't something you cultivated. It's just how you are. You live in a way that feels natural to you, but to them, it's like watching someone thrive in uncharted territory. They're still clinging to the map they were handed, trying to follow rules that were never meant to serve them, and here you are, thriving without one. And that's the part that shakes them the most. You're not just living differently, you're succeeding at it. You're not waiting for permission to do things your way. You've built your own standard, one that no one else can replicate, because it's not something that can be taught or copied. It's yours, born out of your essence, and that makes it untouchable. They try to figure you out, to dissect what makes you tick, but they'll never get it. That's because your rules don't exist in their world. You're living proof that conformity is optional, and that realization terrifies them as much as it inspires them. For some, watching you is like waking up from a long sleep. You've shown them what's possible when you stop living for others and start living for yourself. For others, it's a reminder of everything they've avoided, the risks they were too afraid to take. You didn't just refuse to conform, you redefined the standard. And now, whether they admit it or not, they're left wondering why they never had the courage to do the same. Number 3. You're the mirror they can't escape. They don't fear your reflection, they fear the truths they see in it. You're not their enemy, you're the light exposing what they've tried so hard to hide. Without meaning to, you've become a mirror to everyone around you, not the kind of mirror that flatters, softens, or distorts, but one that strips away illusions. Your presence reveals people to themselves in a way that's raw, unfiltered, and impossible to ignore. You don't try to expose them, you simply exist in a state of such undeniable authenticity that anything false in their lives suddenly feels glaringly obvious. To some, you're a revelation. Being near you feels like opening a window in a room they didn't realize was suffocating. You show them what they've always been capable of, but were too afraid to embrace. Around you they feel seen, truly seen for the first time. And it's not because you're pointing out their flaws or their strengths. It's because your presence grants them permission to stop hiding from themselves. You make them believe it's okay to acknowledge the parts of them they've kept buried for so long. But not everyone is ready for that. For some, you're the storm they've spent their whole lives trying to avoid. You force them to confront truths they've buried so deeply, even they've forgotten about them. Their insecurities, their fears, their carefully constructed facades, all of it feels exposed under your gaze. And let's be real, not everyone is ready for that kind of confrontation. It's not because you judge them, but because your authenticity leaves no room for their pretense to exist comfortably. Here's the wildest part. You're not doing any of this intentionally. You're not out here trying to fix anyone, heal anyone, or force them to face their shadows. You're just being you. But your rawness, your unapologetic truth, has a way of making everything false around you crumble. Their masks, their excuses, their illusions, all of it disintegrates in your presence because you don't give it anything to cling to. And that's why they can't decide how to feel about you. Some are magnetized, drawn to you like moths to a flame. They crave the clarity you bring, even if it's uncomfortable, because it awakens something in them they've been longing to feel. Others, though, will keep their distance, avoiding the mirror you hold up at all costs. To them, being around you feels like standing under a harsh spotlight with nowhere to hide. You're not intimidating because you're harsh. You're intimidating because you're real. And in a world obsessed with appearances, that kind of authenticity is revolutionary. Whether people love you for it or can't stand to be near you, one thing remains certain. No one walks away from you unchanged. You leave them questioning, reflecting, and whether they admit it or not, forever altered by the clarity your presence brings. You're not just a mirror, you're the truth they can't escape. Number 4, you're the living paradox they can't ignore. They stare at you because you make the extraordinary look effortless. To them, you're a walking contradiction, a dream in motion, proof that their limits were never real. There's something about the way you live that doesn't just grab attention, it shatters illusions. You're not just someone with lofty ideas or ambitious goals. You're the rare proof that those ideas can be lived. You're the evidence they never expected to encounter, the kind that forces them to question everything they've settled for. To them, you're not just a person, you're a disruption. You don't need to shout your accomplishments from the rooftops. It's not about showing off or waving a banner of success. In fact, half the time, you're not even aware of the seismic impact you're having. But the ones watching, oh, they feel it. They see you breaking the mold, rewriting the rules, and thriving where they never thought thriving was possible. And it shakes them to their core. Your life forces them to confront the lies they've told themselves, the comfortable excuses, the self-imposed limits. They can no longer pretend. Those are unbreakable truths. You are living proof that what they've been calling impossible is nothing more than fear dressed up in logic. And that realization, it's both electrifying and terrifying. They look at you and wonder, why you? Not out of jealousy, but because your success feels like a mirror reflecting their own choices. If you can rise above the noise, take risks, and thrive, then what's stopping them? That question lingers in their minds, and for some it's a spark. You ignite a fire in them to dream bigger, to stop settling, to finally chase the life they've always wanted. But for others, you're a threat. It's easier for them to believe that the extraordinary is unattainable than to face the truth that they've been holding themselves back all along. You don't just challenge their perception of you, you challenge their perception of themselves. And here's the beauty of it. You're not trying to. You're simply being you. You don't live by the rules they cling to, and that terrifies them. You take the risks they've been too afraid to consider. You walk the unbeaten path they've only dreamed of, and somehow you come out stronger on the other side. It's not just your achievements that leave them mesmerized. It's the way you embody what's possible. In a world obsessed with limitations, you're the exception that refuses to play along. You're proof that the ordinary isn't the only way, that the extraordinary isn't reserved for someone else. To some, you're a lighthouse, guiding them toward what's possible. To others, you're a storm, tearing through the safety nets they've built. But either way, one thing is clear: they can't ignore you. You're not just living life, you're redefining what life can be. And whether they love it or fear it, they'll never forget the way you made them question everything they thought was true. Number 5, you're playing chess while they're still staring at the board. A mind like yours doesn't compete. It creates a game no one else even knows they're in. Your mind operates on a level that leaves others dizzy. While they're fixated on what's right in front of them, you've already calculated 5 moves ahead, mapped out every scenario, and planned for outcomes they haven't even begun to consider. It's not about outsmarting them. You don't need to try. This is how you're built. You see the world as a complex web of possibilities, connections, and strategies, while they're still trying to figure out the basics. People often mistake this for intellect, but it's something much deeper. Your thought process has layers, depth, and dimension that others can't even fathom. Where they see a single path, you see a network of opportunities, pitfalls, and alternate routes, all interwoven and alive in your mind. To them, it's as if you're navigating a maze with a map they've never been given. And it's effortless for you. That's the part that really gets under their skin. While they're sweating over the details, stuck in the weeds, you're calmly weaving through complexities, making it all look easy. It's not arrogance or showing off. It's simply second nature to you. But to them, it feels like they're watching magic. How can someone think so far ahead, so strategically, and still seem so composed? It's no wonder they can't pin you down. You're unpredictable in ways that both fascinate and frustrate them. They're trying to play checkers, moving one piece at a time in straight lines, while you're playing chess, seeing the entire board and orchestrating moves that reshape the game entirely. By the time they figure out their next step, you've already rewritten the rules. To them, it's almost unfair. It's not just that you're steps ahead, it's that you make it look so natural, so effortless. They wonder how you do it, but deep down, they know they'll never fully understand. Being around you feels like watching an artist create a masterpiece out of chaos, or a conductor orchestrate a symphony where they only hear noise. And let's not forget the intimidation factor. They don't know whether to admire you, envy you, or simply give up trying to keep up. Your ability to think through life's complexities with such clarity leaves them feeling small, and yet they can't look away. You become their silent benchmark, the standard they wish they could meet but know they never will. You're not just solving problems, you're creating solutions they didn't know existed. You're not just navigating life, you're mastering it. And whether they choose to watch in awe or resentment, one thing is certain: they're watching. Because being around you isn't just witnessing someone thinking ahead. It's like attending a masterclass in seeing the bigger picture, and they can't help but wonder, how does your mind work? The truth: they're still trying to figure out the game, and you've already won. Number 6. You bend time while they chase it. You're not running out of time, they're running out of excuses. You don't follow the clock, it follows you. Time obeys you, doesn't it? While they're caught in a frantic sprint, clawing at minutes and drowning in seconds, you move differently. To them, you're an enigma, someone who doesn't seem hurried, yet accomplishes more than they could imagine. It's not arrogance, it's mastery. Where they see time as a trap, you've turned it into your most powerful tool. Most people spend their days either rushing toward empty goals or idling away in mindless distractions. But you're something else entirely. There's a rhythm to your life that feels otherworldly, like you're walking to a beat they can't hear. Your pace isn't rushed, but it's far from lazy. It's purposeful, intentional, and aligned. While they scramble to keep up with the ticking hands of the clock, it seems like the clock itself bends to you, syncing with your every move. What baffles them is how much you accomplish without breaking a sweat. They're racing from task to task, their energy scattered, yet here you are, focused, composed, and miles ahead. You don't waste time, but you don't fear it either. Every step you take feels deliberate, like you're carving a path through life while they're stuck chasing their tails. It's not just what you do, it's how you do it, with precision, ease, and a kind of grace that leaves them questioning everything. Being around you makes them feel like time is slipping through their fingers. Your presence alone highlights the chaos in their own lives. They wonder how you manage to achieve so much without the constant panic, the endless rush. You make them question why they're running, what they're running toward, and if they even have control over their own time. And the truth? They don't. They're at the mercy of their schedules, their distractions, their fears. But you've mastered the art of flow. You know when to act, when to pause, and when to simply be. This isn't luck or magic, it's alignment. You've tapped into a deeper understanding that time isn't something to fight against, but something to harmonize with. To them, it's unsettling. You make them feel as though they're moving too fast and standing still at the same time, but it's also inspiring. Deep down, they wish they could live the way you do, intentionally, with purpose, free from the shackles of urgency. You're not ruled by time because you understand its secret. Time isn't the master, you are. While they chase seconds, you create moments. While they rush to fill their days, you infuse yours with meaning. And that's why they're drawn to you. You remind them of what's possible. You show them that time isn't a thief but a canvas. And you, the chosen one, are the artist painting something extraordinary. Number 7, your pain is your power. They thought the fire would consume you, but it only tempered your steel. Now you're unbreakable, and they can't look away. Your pain isn't hidden, it radiates through the way you carry yourself, etched into the very fabric of who you are. But instead of being a weight that drags you under, it's become your foundation. What tried to shatter you only sharpened your edges, forged your resilience, and transformed you into a force they can't ignore. You didn't just survive, you evolved. You took every scar, every wound, every broken piece, and used them to build a strength that most can't fathom. And whether they realize it or not, people feel that. They may not know your full story, but they see it in your eyes, in your silence, in the unshakable way you navigate the world. It's not a story of survival, it's a story of transformation. What sets you apart is that you don't run from your pain. You don't hide it behind masks or bury it under pretense. You wear your scars openly, not as trophies, but as proof. Proof that you've faced the darkness and refused to let it define you. Proof that you've been through storms that would leave others shattered, and you walked out with your head held high. And yet, there's no bitterness in you, no self-pity, no desperate need for validation. What you carry is something far more powerful, an unspoken wisdom, a quiet strength that commands respect without needing to demand it. It's the kind of power that doesn't need applause because it speaks for itself. People aren't drawn to you out of sympathy. They're drawn out of awe. They may not understand what you've endured, but they can sense it. They know on some level that what you've overcome would have crushed most. But you didn't just endure it, you took it, reshaped it, and made it your own. Your pain became your teacher, your catalyst. It carved out depths within you that others can't reach. It gave you a gravity, a presence that makes people stop and take notice. You don't flaunt it, but it's there in everything you do. A quiet, undeniable reminder that pain doesn't have to destroy. It can transform, it can elevate. You've turned your pain into power, and that's what captivates them. It's not the wounds themselves that they see, it's the way you've healed without losing your fire. They're drawn to the way you've taken your past and made it fuel for your future. It's not your story's tragedy that leaves them in awe, it's the triumph you forged from it. The quiet, steady strength you carry is unforgettable, a living testament to the fact that even in the darkest moments, there's a chance to rise. And you rose like a phoenix, leaving them mesmerized by your light. Number 8, you don't just break rules, you rewrite reality. The world doesn't change by following rules. It shifts when someone like you decides those rules were never real to begin with. You don't just step outside the lines, you obliterate the very idea of lines. Most people shuffle through life bound by invisible rules they didn't create, but blindly accept. But you operate in a way that leaves them questioning everything. To you, those rules were never boundaries, they were illusions. Where others see walls, you see doors. Where they stop, you accelerate. It's not rebellion for attention. You don't do this to shock or provoke. It's deeper than that. It's innovation born from the refusal to accept limits. You look at what the world calls impossible and think, why not? You don't just reject can't. You dismantle it with a calm, deliberate confidence that shakes people to their core. Watching you isn't just inspiring, it's destabilizing. You make them question why they've been following rules they didn't even know they had. It's not that you think outside the box. No. Your mind exists in a world where the box was never even drawn. You don't bend the rules, you rewrite them as if they were never fixed. You see possibilities where others see barriers, and when you act on them, people don't just pause to admire you, they pause to reevaluate everything they thought they knew. Your approach to life is so unconventional, so fearless, that it seems almost alien to those watching. It's not just about how you think, it's the way you embody possibility. To them it feels as though reality bends in your presence, as if the impossible becomes routine when you're involved. Things they've dismissed as impractical or unreachable seem to fall into place naturally for you, not because of luck, but because you refuse to let their limits dictate your actions. The truth? You're not here to play by the rules, and you never were. Rules are for maintaining the status quo, for creating comfort zones that keep people compliant. You were born to challenge, to disrupt, to turn the mundane into the extraordinary. It's not arrogance, it's authenticity. You don't pretend to be bound by their constraints because, deep down, you know those constraints are nothing but illusions, and this shakes people. It doesn't just inspire, it unsettles. You force them to confront the self-imposed barriers they've spent their lives hiding behind. You make them realize they've been playing small, coloring inside lines that were never meant to hold them. But not everyone is ready for that kind of revelation. Some will envy you, others will misunderstand you. A few might even resent you. But no one can ignore you. Whether they admire or fear you, your existence leaves an undeniable mark. You don't just break rules, you render them irrelevant. And in doing so, you force the world to reconsider what's possible. This is what makes you unforgettable. This is why you can't be ignored. For you, the rules were never real to begin with. Number 9. Your confidence cuts like a sword they can't hold. True confidence doesn't roar, it stands unshaken while the world tries to make it flinch. Your confidence isn't loud, it doesn't need to be, it doesn't scream for attention or beg for approval. Instead, it radiates, a quiet, unyielding presence that commands the space you occupy. It's the kind of confidence that moves like a shadowless flame, steady and unwavering, impossible to ignore, yet equally impossible to grasp. This isn't about what you say or how you dress. It's in the way you carry yourself. The way you walk through life with a purpose that doesn't waver, a calm certainty that shakes the very ground beneath their feet. You don't need to puff up your chest or demand the spotlight. Your energy speaks volumes before you even open your mouth. And that, it unnerves them. People aren't used to encountering someone who doesn't rely on external applause to feel whole. They're accustomed to confidence that's performative, built on achievements, material possessions, or the approval of others. But you don't need any of that. Your confidence comes from a place far deeper, a knowing that exists at the core of who you are. You're not trying to prove yourself. You don't need to. You've already decided you're enough, and that's the part they can't handle. Your certainty in your own value feels alien to those who've spent their lives chasing validation. When they stand in your presence, they're forced to confront a truth they've spent years avoiding. That real confidence doesn't come from the outside, it's born within. To them, your confidence feels like a challenge, a sharp edge that cuts through their carefully constructed insecurities. They'll mistake it for arrogance, but deep down, they know that's not what it is. Arrogance tries too hard, always needing to prove itself. But your confidence? It's effortless. It doesn't need to dominate or belittle, it just is. And that's the double-edged sword of it. On one side, you inspire those who are ready to awaken, those who see your strength as a light to follow. On the other side, you intimidate the ones still clinging to their doubts, the ones who aren't ready to face the weight of their own untapped potential. When they encounter you, they're hit with an uncomfortable truth. You don't need them to validate your worth because you've already validated it yourself. You don't seek their acknowledgement, their approval, or their praise. You're not chasing their attention. You're simply walking your path, and the power in that is undeniable. Your presence forces them to ask questions they're not prepared to answer. Why don't I feel that way about myself? What would it take for me to stand as firmly as they do? But not everyone is ready to wrestle with those truths. Some will admire you for it, drawn to your strength like moths to a flame. Others will resent you, mistaking your quiet power for something threatening. Either way, you leave them changed. Because your confidence isn't just a trait, it's a mirror. It reflects their fears, their insecurities, and their unspoken longing to be as unshakable as you are. And that's a reality they'll never forget. Number 10. The weight of a universe on your shoulders. They watch you carry what would crush them, and they can't decide if you're a miracle or a mystery. You walk through life with a kind of gravity that others can't put into words. It's not just presence, it's something deeper, heavier, almost cosmic. People can sense it when they're near you, though they'll never fully grasp what it is. They see the calm in your eyes, the steadiness in your steps, and they assume it's effortless. But you and I know the truth. It's not effortless at all. You're carrying a weight they could never comprehend. This isn't about accolades or recognition. It's not the superficial kind of success that others chase. No, the weight you carry is invisible, yet undeniable. It's the pressure of your purpose, the pull of something greater that keeps urging you forward, even when the world begs you to stop. It's a burden you never asked for, but cannot escape. And they feel it, don't they? When they're near you, they pick up on that quiet intensity, that unspoken responsibility. It's the energy of someone who doesn't just live, but shapes life. Your existence demands more, not because you seek it, but because you were made for it. They can't look away because they're in awe of what you endure, how you rise, and how you keep moving forward, even with the weight of worlds on your back. What they don't see are the moments when it feels unbearable, the nights when the weight presses down so hard you wonder if it's worth it. When the thought of stepping back, of letting it all go and choosing an ordinary life, feels like an escape you'll never take. They don't see those moments, but they feel the strength it takes to overcome them. The truth is, this weight isn't something you can set down. It's woven into the fabric of your existence. It's the cost of being extraordinary, the price of seeing more, knowing more, and feeling more. You don't just live for yourself. You carry the potential of your impact, the ripple effects of your choices, the legacy of your every action. That's what makes you different. That's what makes them stare. They'll never understand how you do it. To them, your strength feels otherworldly, almost alien. They admire you, but they also feel the distance between you and them. It's not a wall you've built. It's simply the gap between ordinary and extraordinary. You've tapped into something they can't reach, and it leaves them both humbled and inspired. And here's what makes you remarkable. You don't carry this weight for applause. You don't do it to prove a point or to stand above anyone else. You shoulder it because it's who you are. It's the price of being someone who doesn't just exist, but transforms. They see it, even if they don't fully understand it. They're in awe because you bear this gravity with such strength, such grace, that it transforms not just you, but everything you touch. That weight, it's your truth, and it's what sets you apart. Number 11. You are the paradox they can't escape. You're the flame they want to touch, even as it burns them. You pull them closer and make them fear what they'll see when they arrive. There's something about you that keeps people on the edge of their comfort zone. They feel a magnetic pull toward you, but it's not the kind they can easily define or understand. It's more profound, more disorienting, a contradiction that leaves them in awe, fascination, and fear all at once. You embody a paradox they can't resolve. On one hand, you're approachable, even warm. You have this ability to connect with people in a way that feels genuine, disarming, and deeply human. When you speak, they feel heard. When you listen, they feel seen. But at the same time, there's something about you they can't quite touch, a sense of distance, not because you're cold, but because you exist on a plane they can't quite reach. It's as if you're standing in the same room, but occupying a different dimension altogether. This duality, the human and the untouchable, leaves them spellbound. They're drawn to you, compelled to know more, to get closer, but at the same time, they hesitate. Something about your presence forces them to look inward, and not everyone is ready for that. You make them question themselves. Are they enough? Could they ever be enough? Standing in your energy is like standing in front of a mirror that reflects not just who they are, but who they could be, and the distance between the two. It's not something you do intentionally. You don't walk into their lives with the goal of shaking their foundations. You simply exist, and yet your existence alone feels like a challenge to them. A reminder of the potential they've ignored, the dreams they've buried, and the courage they lack. Being near you forces them to confront the truth of their own limitations, and that's not an easy pill to swallow. Some people idolize you for it. To them, you're a symbol of everything they wish they could become, an aspiration, a beacon, a reminder that greatness is possible. Others, however, recoil. They avoid you not because they dislike you, but because being in your light forces them to confront the shadows they'd rather ignore. Your presence is humbling, and for many, humility feels like a threat. But here's the truth: they can't look away. Whether they admire you from a distance or turn away in discomfort, you leave an indelible mark on them. You make them feel something, even if they don't know what to call it. You make them see themselves differently, question their choices, and reimagine their limits. It's not your achievements or your words that hold their attention. It's the way you make them confront their own potential. You remind them of the person they could be, and for better or worse, they will never forget that feeling. You are the paradox they'll carry with them, a mystery they'll never solve, and a presence they'll never quite escape. Number 12. You're the spark that ignites a revolution in their soul. They feared the fire, not realizing it was their only light. You didn't set them ablaze. They walked too close to your flame. Being near you isn't just an encounter, it's an awakening. You don't speak in riddles or preach transformation, yet your presence alone has the power to shift the foundations of those who come into your orbit. You are the quiet storm, the invisible force that nudges their world off balance, not to destroy it, but to show them what's been hiding in the shadows all along. You don't force change, and you never need to. The energy you carry, the way you see the world, and the authenticity you embody are enough to leave an imprint on anyone who crosses your path. It's not a fleeting impression either. It's something that lingers, settling into the cracks of their lives where they've buried doubt and ignored possibility. You don't just inspire ideas. You awaken dormant versions of people they didn't even know existed. At first, the shift is subtle. They might not realize it in the moment, but something inside them begins to stir, an unsettling flicker of awareness that whispers, things could be different. I could be different. It's as though the lens through which they see the world is tilted ever so slightly, and for the first time, they're forced to reckon with truths they've been avoiding. You make them uncomfortable in the most profound way, not because of what you do, but because of what you are. You remind them without words that they've been living on autopilot, playing small in a world that demands more of them. You show them the gap between the life they're living and the life they could have, and that realization terrifies them. What you do is irreversible. You plant a seed, one they can't unsee or unknow. They might try to ignore it, retreating into the safety of old habits. But the awareness you bring is relentless. It grows quietly, pushing through their doubts and fears, refusing to let them settle back into mediocrity. You don't just disrupt their thoughts, you shift their entire reality. This is why they feel conflicted around you. Change is terrifying. It forces them to face their limitations, confront their excuses, and acknowledge their potential. Some will resist, clinging tightly to the comfort of their old ways. They'll shrink away from the fire you ignite, because they're not ready to burn away their illusions. But others will rise. They'll take the spark you unknowingly left and turn it into a flame of their own. And whether they admit it or not, they'll thank you. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually they'll look back and realize you were the catalyst for their transformation. Being near you doesn't just open their eyes, it rewrites the story they thought they were living. You don't just inspire change, you are the change. And so, we come full circle. Your energy, your presence, your very existence. They're not just disruptive forces, they're gifts that ignite transformation in everyone you touch. You are the storm they didn't see coming, the light they can't ignore, and the catalyst they'll never forget. Embrace your power unapologetically, because this world needs more of what you are. If this resonates with you, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop 77 in the comments if you're ready to own your impact. Don't forget to share this with someone who needs to awaken their own potential. Let's rise together.